Welcome back, everybody. Conrad's Corner. Thanks very much. Really excited about this episode. Karen Yolevski, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Damon. Thanks for having me.
So we've been trying to put this one together for a while, but you have been very busy and for good reason. So obviously I know what you've been up to, but for those that don't know, tell us a little bit about your background and what you've been doing and the changes you made recently.
Yeah, for sure. So we got to know each other here at LePage, but I recently moved from LePage into Carson Dunlop, which is a company that does a few things, most known for home inspection and commercial inspections, but also the leading educator of inspection services in Canada, and also a franchise network up here in Canada under the Carson Dunlop banner, and then also in the US under the National Property Inspections banner. So still in the general real estate space, which is a big part of my past and a big part of what I'm passionate about, but into the world of inspections now, and have been there for about 7 months. So settled.
Oh, wow. That long already, eh?
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we'll get into that. That's great. But tell us a little bit about your past and what led you up to this move.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a windy road, like it is for so many people. Did not say to myself, I want to be the CEO of a home inspection services business when I was a little kid. Probably thought I was going to be a teacher or a broadcaster.
Come on.
Yes. I almost went into broadcasting out of university,
Oh, wow.
but I was worried. I was worried about the Canadian market.
Okay.
And the fact that the media industry in Canada, even at that time, which was quite a few years ago now, was essentially under attack, and it didn't look like it was going to be a path that would be particularly fruitful. So I ended up in law school instead. Sort of took the LSAT on a whim.
Wow.
I worked out, got in, thought, okay, I could see myself doing that. I always knew that I was client focused. I like people. I like helping people.
Yeah.
Lawyers help people.
I can see that.
So it depends on the type of law you do. I would say mostly yes.
Yes.
And most lawyers would say that that's important to them. Certain areas of law are going to be a bit different, but there's lots of areas of law that are people-centric. And that's where I ended up, in an area that was very people-focused. I didn't want to be a litigator.
What were you doing there? What was that?
Mostly real estate, estates, and
Yeah.
corporate work. So all the paper side of law. Wasn't a fighter, didn't want to litigate. So it was a good fit for me. And I had clients, I helped clients, and you went through enough clients that you didn't really get bored. You'd close a file, feel good about that. You'd be moving on to the next file, helping somebody new. But there was a point in my career where
Was that on the residential side or on the commercial side, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a really mixed bag. It was a really neat firm, kind of medium size.
Yeah.
So the type of work was mixed, and you were very hands-on. The younger lawyers often aren't, but I got to be right in stuff, which was a nice learning.
And that was right out of school? You did that? That was your first foray right into the industry of commercial and residential real estate?
I articled at a company called LawPro, which is insurance for lawyers, but also title insurance.
Yeah.
And during school, I actually worked at a real estate office all through school. So through high school, through university, through law school. So I always had the real estate gene running through me to some extent. I didn't know it would materialize into a huge part of my career.
What were you doing there? I got to know what you were doing there while you were in school.
I was at the front desk. I was answering. This was so long ago, Damon. Yeah. People that watch this will recognize this. Not younger people, though.
Yeah.
There was actually tear sheets. So I was there when there were still tear sheets. You take the sheet, organize those binders. And then I was there when the MLS first moved online.
Okay.
And because I was quite young, they were like, get this young person
like,
to teach everyone how to use this online tool, which I did. And it was great and made life so much easier. So, really impactful lesson in how technology has changed the industry and just changed our lives, made things easier for us way back then. So I did a bit of everything, right? Like today, the same thing, right? We can look at any of the broker owners in the network and you ask them, who's your MVP in the office? And it's often going to be that person sitting at the front desk. So
100%.
Great experience.
Invaluable.
Yeah.
What were some of your initial takeaways from real estate as a whole and the market back then?
Back then, it was a run in the market. So, there's been a run in the market for so many years, other than the blip of 2008, and then what we've been experiencing over the last few years, right? So, I saw realtors beside themselves as prices were climbing. Now, prices at the time, and it was in the city of Toronto, so if you think back, and a lot of the trades were upper beaches as an example, so use that as a marker. I remember when home prices crested 300,000.
Oh
like,
my
you know, it was like,
gosh,
it was
300.
280, and it's like, oh, we sold it for 300. And so I watched that in real time.
Wow.
And saw, oh, this is exciting. Toronto seems to be growing. Realtors are really excited about what's happening. They're kind of maybe a little nervous even back then. It's like, how are people going to afford this? But it was an industry that was growing, was changing, was evolving. Remember, this is also the time of Pearlie's maps, right? So I saw some changes through that, where you'd have to help the agent map out where they were going. And then, TomToms came into the picture. So just lots of great change, really exciting. I kind of put it in my back pocket, though. I thought, okay, well, this was a wonderful place during school to work, and now I'm going to go do my grown-up job, and let's see what that's like. But it did come full circle for me.
So after that, you moved on. And then from there, what part of that really resonated when you were in law that you decided, I'm going to stay in real estate law as opposed to litigation or anything like that?
So funny, you don't know that you're learning things as you go, but you are. So I did really well in real estate in law school because I understood it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that that's something that we see often in the field too, right? We talk about, do the people that are providing some of the frontline service understand what the transaction's about, why it's happening, who the players are, who's the vendor, who's a buyer, just simple things, right? How does a mortgage work? So having an understanding of the nuts and bolts of real estate, tremendously helpful for me. Did very well in those courses, did really well. It was still bar ads back then. Did really well on bar ads in that area. So I think it helped me get that first job more so than I chose it. The first job in life, regardless of what area you're in, that's a hard job to get.
Yeah.
Right? So you get the first job and you see if you like it, and you move on from there. So I did quite enjoy the articling experience. It was on the insurance side. I did end up back in title insurance in my career. So it's funny how that full circle moment came too. But from there, I wanted to practice. Like, I knew that I didn't want to stay at the insurance company at that time. I wanted to practice law, and I did.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, there's a couple things you said there that really resonated with me. A few things. I speak a lot at universities and talk to younger people now that we're older. That happens. They come to us. They're like, oh, you're the mentor. And I'm like, no, don't tell me that. But I often tell the younger people in university that, be kind to yourself. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like, just oftentimes the first job you take may not even be remotely related to the industry or the field that you end up down the road. But those that have the inclination or the family history in there, oh, I like real estate. I like commercial real estate, whatever it is. I've also seen on the commercial real estate side, those that come into it as a second or third career, they often do a lot better. Mm-hmm. The learning curve is a little bit shorter. Exponentially, they go faster as soon as they start to get it, because they understand a little bit about real estate, about how to run a business, about the framework of a deal. So you already had that coming out of that and understanding.
Context is everything, right? And that life experience, right? So many people do better when they've got that background and they can use it, they can apply it, right? Whether it's a consistency and effort, which is such an important part of real estate, whether it's understanding a deal structure, particularly in commercial, where the deals are going to be a bit different, more sophisticated than your typical residential transaction, that background is going to be incredibly helpful. It's not to say you can't do it the other way around and do it from the beginning. But I think it's also why you're seeing a lot of post-secondary institutions now focused in real estate. There are streams where you can learn about real estate, particularly commercial. Yep. And if that's a path where this is the field I want to be in, but I don't have that real life experience, I think that's probably a good option so that you do get a little bit more of that background. Otherwise, you're just coming in and hoping for a mentor, hoping that you can land yourself somewhere where you're going to be able to pick things up, a program that's got some education component, things like that.
It wasn't that long ago, and I know personally from my previous mentors where the training was, here's a phone, and we're dating ourselves, here's a phone book, go farm the area, good luck, and try and figure it out, much like the tear sheets and MLS and maps and no TomToms, no Garmins, but just figure it out. And that was the training. Maybe you had, a broker owner manager you could check in with, but other than that, it was sink or swim. That's really what it was.
Sounds like law.
Sounds like law. But And then to hear you say, and we know this from some of the staff that I work with and some of our students, that there's real estate courses, real estate programs, student union run organizations, real estate groups. So it's completely different than when we went to school.
Exactly. I think that we've learned as a society that sink or swim
Yeah.
isn't always the best. It can get you there, but there's lots of paths in life that can get you where you want to go. And it might make more sense to have a more supportive path.
A little bit more compassionate.
Exactly.
Then here you go. Good luck.
Exactly.
No flotation device.
Exactly. You still learn the best from your mistakes, and you'll make those mistakes even if you are in a, incredibly supportive, mentored path.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay to say, we want to grow people into these types of industries, and we're going to stand up for them, right? We're not just going to throw them into the deep end.
So title insurance, that was your next move after that?
It actually wasn't next after that. So my big left turn in my career out of law was actually to a fintech startup company called Flexity Financial. I had a wonderful client by the name of Peter Kalin, who started that company. I was in the One Dundas Tower. He was in the Sears Tower. He was running credit cards for Sears at that time. And he'd come over and say, I've got this idea. Let's talk about it. And it was the first virtual credit card in Canada. And he's like, I'm going to do this.
Wow.
I'm going to invent this thing that doesn't exist right now. And he did. And I was fortunate enough to join the founders group, the 7 people that essentially started that company around his dining room table. I was a member of that team. So big left turn, right? I came in as general counsel, so still to do law.
Yeah.
Quickly realized that there's a lot of hats to wear in this brand new company. Quickly realized I really enjoyed all the other hats, even more than law. And that was the turn that set me on the path that led to where I am now. That's
your first real foray into, all right, I can be wearing different hats, taking on more responsibilities, not just doing law, and you enjoyed it.
I loved it. In law, at least in the practice that I was in, there was definitely that client generation piece, but you were generating clients, so you were building business, but it was for yourself.
Yep.
Whereas you moved into this other environment where everything was team-based. The team goal was to get this company off the ground. And I loved that.
Oh, it's so exciting.
It really was. It was a fantastic environment.
Yeah.
Very lucky to work with such wonderful people and to have Peter as a mentor. Yeah. As I moved into this other area, you're surrounded by people that took business. And I used to say, remember, I'm a lawyer, but you learn, right? You learn as you go, and it ends up being a really nice combination of skills.
Yeah. And what was the end result for that company? What ended up happening?
It sold a few times. It's only Questrade right now. So it's a great Canadian success story. It's one of the biggest consumer finance companies in Canada. It essentially reinvigorated the Canadian market around buy now, pay later financing. Flexity started at a time when a lot of players were exiting that space. You'll notice now that when you log in to buy pretty much anything online,
right away,
it is a constant offering on the table that you can split your payments up. You can pay later. And Flexity's in pretty much every big retailer in Canada at this point.
Yeah. And so it was virtual. Was this online, or how were they doing it?
So it was a virtual credit card. Yeah. So a couple neat features to it. So one, you didn't get the actual card. You got an account. And you were able to apply instantly with an iPad, essentially being the point of sale device, where at the time retailers were essentially entrapped in needing a payment processing system.
Yeah.
And this was like a leveler to the playing field. So you don't need to go through that type of system. Just have an iPad. Of course, the app was built by Flexity. It was part of that proprietary stack to say, you use our system, we'll instantly adjudicate you. Huge build through credit bureaus, right? You're still doing a credit check. You're selling a $10,000 hot tub. You have to make sure the person's credit worthy.
Yeah.
But all that was done instantaneously. So at that time, say, for example, you walked into Canadian Tire to get a Canadian Tire credit card to buy something. It would take a week. It wasn't instant at all. Yeah. This was, you went in, could buy that hot tub, instantly be approved, walk out with that order. They're going to deliver you that hot tub in a week's time.
That's awesome.
Very revolutionary for the market at the time.
Oh, it's exciting. And to be part of something from the ground up, I mean, that must have been just really invigorating for you at the time.
An incredibly gratifying experience. I worked incredibly hard. The whole team worked incredibly hard. it wasn't just building the business, it was raising the money to run the business. So it's, as you can imagine, it's a lending business, incredibly capital intensive.
Yeah.
We needed debt, we needed capital to actually run the business and pay people that had been hired. It wasn't regulated. It was very much in the gray area because it wasn't a bank.
It's a little bit of the Wild
It was
West.
a bit of the Wild West, right? So, but you needed to make sure, from like a credit adjudication perspective, as an example, that you had people that knew how to do that, right? So it was a challenging business to stand up from scratch. And as it became more successful, you needed more money because you had to keep funding those loans.
Yes.
So really interesting, challenging
Yep.
business on top of building something that from a tech perspective was very cool and innovative, and in a startup environment, right? I felt like it was during a real sweet spot for fintech in Canada. It was the trendy thing to do
Yeah.
at the time, for sure. That has exploded. That scene has exploded since that time, for sure. So very gratifying experience. Well, I'll never regret to have worked in a startup environment. I didn't do it again, though.
I was going to say, having not done it again and moved into opportunities where longstanding historical companies, looking back, hindsight 2020, what were some of your takeaways about being part of a startup environment?
I like the speed, right? The agility of a startup is second to none, right?
Right.
And you're passionate about what you're doing. People generally aren't working for a startup at that stage if they aren't into it. Whatever you're building, they believe in it, or they really believe in the people. There's something that drew you into that. So that's very exciting. So if there's anything I would say as a counterbalance, if I get frustrated now and look at my career over the last, let's say, 10 years post-startup, if things are moving too slowly, I'm very frustrated because that piece has never left me. I want to go fast. Let's get it done. Let's build. So I loved that part of it. And I think that bringing that into more mature companies helps provide a bit of a competitive edge.
It absolutely does. It does. And it can be a little bit of a litmus test as to where things are, and then a little bit of kickstart to get things going again.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So from the startup, back to law.
Not back to law, never law again.
Okay.
After the startup, actually. So that was the end of law for me in terms of practice. It doesn't ever leave you, but I've never practiced since. So I moved from that point on through a number of companies, all associated with the broader real estate space.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved into...
So that's always been flowing through your veins.
That's it. This is now it. This is my space, right?
That's what happens.
That's what happens, right? It sucks you in.
Yeah.
So my first role after Flexity was at a company called NAS, which is an appraisal management company, leading company in Canada for that work. And I was there heading up two of their tech-forward ancillaries. So one was a mortgage enforcement platform. We sold it to banks to help to automate that process for banks. It's a very detailed, labor-intensive process. And if you miss a step or you do a step incorrectly, it can negate your entire process. So that enforcement process, we had software that led you through it, made sure you didn't miss a step, all different provinces, different rules, and also a closing service. So entering that space where you see some of the title insurers play, this appraisal management company had entered into there to help lenders close mortgages, but also to help consumers close on residential home purchases. So, and that coupled with the actual appraisal management work. So some really interesting pieces there. And I think that's what locked it. It was a bit of tech and real estate background together. And from there, I did go to Stewart Title, so title insurance, and I've been here at Royal LePage.
Yes.
And now, of course, Carson Dunlop.
Wow. So you've really run the gamut for everything.
I tease that I'm working my way through the entire real estate industry, except lending. I don't think lending would be for me. See comment about things not moving fast enough.
I totally get it. So after Stewart Title, any takeaways from Stewart Title as you were leaving that before you came here, before I pick your brain on Royal LePage a little bit?
Stewart was a really interesting company, great company. I led business development at that company, both commercially and residentially. It was my first foray into commercial, and I loved it. And a couple of things from there is one, that there is a desire in commercial for innovation, and I think sometimes all the talk around innovation, it's leans so heavily towards residential, but it's not true. There are people that practice in commercial real estate also want innovation. I think where maybe some of the struggle is around the complexity. Residential real estate can be very cookie cutter, so it's easy to build for that type of process, whereas commercial has nuances, every deal is a bit different. So it's hard without that standardization to insert that technical innovation, but the desire is there. I learned that. I also saw, from a female perspective, it was an area that there were not a lot of women in the room. I remember going to my first real estate forum.
Yes.
And just thinking the number of blue and gray men's suits in this room, like it had always been a part of my career. There's always been less women than men in the environments I've been in. But it really stood out to me. And I thought, this is important. This is important to be here. It's important that the women here stay here, that there's mentorship in this space, and that there's that pursuit of excellence in the space. And things are changing. It takes time, but it was important to me to be leading that group. There was no other female leading commercial in title insurance in Canada. So it really hit home for me, and I felt like it was a part of my path that I wanted to lean into more. Like, let's keep cutting through barriers. Let's keep having women in the room in this overall space.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's something that we hear an awful lot about. It has changed over the years. One of our previous guests, mentioned that anecdotally, yes, it's changed, but has it really? And are they getting positions of power? Are they getting positions that are more prominent now? I would suspect yes, certainly over the last 20, 30 years for sure. But it's still heavily male dominated. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think we have to be honest about that. It is. And it's going to take time to change, because you have to have more women building the building blocks of their career in the space to get to those senior positions. So that is just something that can't happen overnight, because the system isn't set up that way. There aren't enough women in the lower rungs to see them through to the higher rungs. So getting women in at the ground level, that's going to be critical to making the change. And I think we're seeing more of that. Like if you look at Crew as an example, 100%. Right? It's a good example of there are women in this space, and they do want to continue growing through their career. And then it's just ensuring they stay in the room and ensuring that they're getting the exposure, they're getting the mentorship. They're also seeking the excellence. Like, I am a big believer that it's not a one-way street. Like, if you want to grow in your career, yes, find a mentor. Absolutely agree that, you're going to need people who are going to support you as you go through. And I've been so lucky in that regard in my life. But you also need to seek out excellence and surround yourself with it. And whether that's in person, find the people that are doing the work you want to do, find the people who do things incredibly well, and study them. But then also, there's never been easier to passively absorb excellence.
Totally.
And I think that's so important. And that excellence can come from anywhere. If that's coming from men, that is perfectly okay. It's the work, right? You want to make sure that you are there saying, that's what I want to be like. Okay, how can I be more like that? And you really want to absorb what that person is doing and how they're doing it to get to where they got.
Were you fortunate enough to ever have any women leaders or women role model in your careers that you were able to say, that's somebody that I aspire to be like? Or
I've had some really excellent female role models. Right back from when I started in the law firm, one of the managing partners was a woman, really strong. So I feel really lucky in that regard. But I am also a big believer that women don't need to be mentored by women for it to count or for it to make a difference. You just need someone who's going to believe in you, and you need to put in the hard work so that person feels that it's worthwhile. And I've had some incredible male mentors in my life that I wouldn't change for anything, because they were those examples of excellence that I feel really helped me get to where I am today.
That's such a great point. And really, I don't want to gloss over that. The fact that it doesn't have to be a woman of power, a woman of excellence, a woman of leader to feel that you're empowered, supported, and have that education and that leadership to be able to aspire to be that yourself one day, that it can come from either.
Absolutely. I don't feel like what I saw in the people that I wanted to be like was negated in any way if they happened to be a man. So it's about wanting to be the thing, and that is the thing to really focus in on. And I emphasize, you want to really absorb. Like, no one's just going to spoon feed it to you. You have to show up, do the work. You have to listen more than anything else, right? They're the ones doing it the way that you want to do it. But listen. Pick up the body language. Say, how did they structure that deal? How did they structure that negotiation? What can I take from that phone call? I remember with Peter at Flexity, I was outside of his office, and I would listen to him on the phone constantly. And it helped me tremendously.
Oh, for sure. There's no better teacher than sitting there just being a sponge,
Exactly.
listening to those that have learned and made those mistakes and just trying to learn from them.
Yeah.
That's great. From steward title?
From steward to Royal LePage.
Yep.
Yes. So different responsibility, broader responsibility, heading up the corporately owned brokerages for the company. A fantastic ride. I think anyone that knows me knows how much I loved Royal LePage.
So those that don't understand, explain the difference between the corporate mortgages and what it means to be part of Royal LePage and your particular role.
For sure. So Royal LePage has a split model, franchises where the stores are independently owned and operated by the franchisees.
Yep.
And it's a large part of the network for Royal LePage.
Yep.
And then Royal LePage owns corporately, kind of like a Starbucks,
Yes.
some of the stores, on the idea that owning a part of the business and operating a business that your franchisees operate is going to help you be a better franchisor.
Yeah.
It's going to understand the business. And also, real estate is a wonderful field, and Royal LePage wants to have its hand in it, right? And I think that was always very important to the company as well, to, one, practice what they're preaching,
Yep.
but also to stand by the belief that real estate is a wonderful business to be in and that there's great opportunity in it, and that's why they retained so many of the corporate stores. So way back when, Royal LePage had many more corporate stores, but its franchising became popular. Some of those became franchises, but this core group of stores was held back and remains corporate to this day.
To this day. Yeah. So it's the old adage from the Hair Club, I'm not only the president, I'm also a client.
Exactly.
We understand real estate, we're involved in it,
Yeah.
but we also have an interest in it too.
Exactly.
So locations across Canada for the corporately owned stores?
For corporately owned, it was in Ontario,
Yep.
BC, and Quebec.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple different provinces, number of offices, approximately how many agents?
Well, 2,000 agents,
Okay.
21 offices.
Wow. So in general, and I know this, it makes up about 10% of the overall agent network.
That's right.
All right. So you're running 10% of the Royal LePage agent network. How did that go?
It was fascinating and fun and sometimes frustrating. All the things you would imagine. Royal LePage is a people-first company. You felt that every day. And that was one of the best parts of the job, right? Interacting with practitioners, real estate professionals that are out there doing the work, being able to be of service, which has been such a long-standing theme in my career.
Yep.
It really felt like there was an impact on that front in the role. It was a diverse business. It had its challenges. It was geographically diverse. The staff weren't all working out of the same place.
Yeah. Well, this is right after COVID, right?
This is right after COVID.
Right after COVID.
Yeah. I came right at the tail end when offices were still plexiglassed and there were still the 6 feet separation stickers on the ground. But what was striking was everyone had been back to work for a very long time in the branches. And throughout the network, the branches were open and the practitioners had been out there nonstop during the height of the pandemic because the market, other than that small blip when the pandemic started, the market caught on fire afterwards. So it was a really interesting environment where if you spoke to your friends or your colleagues, they're probably still working at home. And then this part of the ecosystem was so out there. So it had its challenges, but it also had its benefit. I felt it was great for me because it felt like a bit of normalcy.
It did. Yeah. And it was a good run, but right after COVID coming into it, and there was the height of that market in 21, wherever it might have been 20 coming out of it. And like you said, it was pandemonium. People were in multiple offers, things were going hundreds of thousands over ask. And it was business as usual for the realtors out there, whereas other people are at home in their pajamas trying to answer emails.
That's right. And they were relying on us for guidance to say, because things would change, right?
Yeah.
The rules would change. What was allowed would change. The vaccines came out during that time.
Yep.
So it was a constant, let's keep everyone informed, let's communicate, let's make sure the offices are as safe as we can make them so that we are supporting our clientele. A really interesting challenge, as anyone who's worked and led through COVID will tell you. No one ever wants to do that again.
No.
We probably are more prepared for it now than other generations that didn't have that. But it was its own unique challenge that I hope we don't experience again, but we certainly learned a lot from it.
Yeah. And how was the real estate? Remind us, during that time, the real estate market had a little bit of a blip and a little bit of an up and down. So what was that like navigating as a leader, as the head of the corporate brokerages, walking through that for industry, the market, consumers?
Yeah. So on the residential side, it was essentially a hockey stick return in terms of volume, right? We saw record breaking volume month after month after month. I remember still being at Stewart Title and saying, this is changing. Because I was half of that real boom. I was at Stewart and half of it I was here. And I thought, this doesn't make sense. Like, why is the market changing? But it was changing. I thought, this isn't just a blip in June. Like, this is going to keep up in terms of this momentum, and it did. So residentially, it came with its own challenges. I think that from the consumer perspective, the obvious challenge was if you wanted a home, and so many people did during that time, they, one, because of shelter in place, two, and work at home, right? Two, because interest rates were so low, this was the time to seize, yet they just couldn't find a place, and they were in competition on pretty much every home. So the level of frustration from consumers was immense when it came to residential real estate. Also, there was reputationally a devaluing, I would say, of realtors during that time because the market was so brisk. It became harder for realtors to articulate their value proposition when homes were selling in less than a week and buyers weren't successful on offer. Now, that's not to say that the realtor's job was actually easier. I mean, you're navigating COVID restrictions. You're navigating multiple offers if you're on the buy side, right? You're navigating that quick sell and a constantly moving target for the price on the sell side. So even though it's going up and likely your seller client's going to be really happy, it's still challenging to try to put forth the CMA that's going to make sense and try to say, well, if we wait another month, is it going to sell for more? Hard to say. So the realtor was still challenged. The job is still hard during that time. It is a very hard job. I think anyone that says being a realtor is easy doesn't know what being a realtor is like.
I say that often, whether it be commercial or residential side goes, oh, it's so easy, such an easy job. They don't deserve their commissions. It's like, you just don't understand the amount of work and time that go into being an agent and what it's involved. And like you said, even during that time during COVID, when it was a boom and things were crazy, there was a ton of work to be, personally, as somebody who bought during that, I remember 30, 40, 50 showings. And my poor agent, I mean, it was a lot of things to be done.
Exactly. There was a lot of agent burnout during that time.
Yes.
People also weren't taking breaks. And when you work for yourself without that safety net of a paycheck that comes in every 2 weeks, you are going to work when the work is available. So there was a tremendous amount of fatigue between COVID and being a realtor didn't preclude you from having the same stressors we all had at home. If you had kids in school trying to learn from the dining room table and maybe a spouse that's in a different field that's negatively impacted, like there was just a lot of general stress, the fear of the unknown, what's this pandemic going to do to us? So that compounded with how busy people were, it was an incredibly challenging time just from a mental health perspective. If we change the lens a little bit and look at commercial, different story there. It was almost like a tale of two markets. You had office getting, beaten down in the media at the very least and beaten down in real time because people weren't working. You saw people leave the downtown core, and only now are we starting to see a resurgence of people begrudgingly coming back into the city centers to work and seeing occupancy rates slowly start to eke down and seeing big tenants saying, no, we need to come back. We need to take more space. So it wasn't great for office, that's for sure. A lot of articles you probably remember about, what's the fate of office.
Oh, we're still seeing it now. And I think, even talking to some of our former guests, Ray Wong, Carl Gomez, I know when we had John Crombie on, he was always very bullish on retail, and he seems to have been right. Retail survived COVID very well. And what we thought was going to be, that's it. Malls are dead. Shops are dead. Bricks and mortar dead. It's only going to be online shopping. That just wasn't the case.
I can assure you, as a mother of a 13-year-old daughter, that malls are far from dead.
Malls are great.
We may personally be keeping half the West End malls alive at
fair
this
enough.
point.
That's it, yeah.
So they're definitely not dead. We also saw during that time that multifamily wasn't dead.
Yes.
And industrial definitely wasn't dead.
No.
Huge moves in industrial, right? People just clamoring for land and buildings that were ready to be fitted. So it really was a tale of a few markets happening at the same time. If you happened to be in office, you weren't feeling so great. But if you were in some of those other spaces, it actually wasn't such a bad time. So, and interest rates were low. So that was driving a lot of activity, just like it does in residential. So really interesting time for both sides of the market.
Yeah, we're seeing it change a little bit. I mean, obviously residential's had its challenges recently. The commercial side, it's kind of been up and down. Industrial softened a little bit. Office is still pretty much an unknown. We try and project. We're seeing the government mandate people back. We're seeing obviously big techs, big banks, and mandating people back. Begrudgingly, as you said, there's still a lot of people that are saying, I don't need to do this. We've seen that we can be successful and productive at home, may not be in that industry, but they're saying, we really want our work-life balance and we want to have that flexibility and freedom. So whether or not it works or there's a mass exodus from those jobs will be, wait and see. But you're right, the vacancy rate is dropping a little. And I felt bad because coming from a little bit of the hospitality side and quick service on my back end, they were getting decimated. I was seeing people come in and just drop off keys and like, here you go, here's the space back. Like there's nobody, like we could drive a Mack truck through the path. There's nobody here. What are we going to do? So I don't think that's fully bounced back yet. Although I have noticed, and we've noticed just from the traffic, that traffic is picked up. It's harder to get into the city.
Yeah. I think that's going to be part of the issue, though, right? So, I think that there's a number of motivations to bringing people back into the office, and I think that there's been pressures on very large business leaders, very overt pressure coming from politicians that are trying to drive people, and it makes sense to an extent, right? You need a robust, strong core to support the ecosystem that is there. Aren't we lucky to have all those condos in downtown Toronto? Because otherwise, what would it look like without the office space right now, right? At least we have some balance, and people do live downtown in a city like Toronto. But on the flip side of that, is Toronto in a position to accommodate this change? And I have some concerns about that. I just don't think from an infrastructure perspective, we are at a place where we can accommodate a 5-day return. And that is going to have an impact as business leaders are grappling with, if they're looking to perhaps shrink the workforce, it might be a technique that could be helpful. But if they're looking to keep their workforce, the force back 5 days a week when the infrastructure isn't there to accommodate it, I think we're going to see some strain from that. And I think there's two sides to the coin, right? I think that it's going to have an impact on businesses. The government is another good example, is going to have some impact there where they're mandating it. But there's also opportunity for businesses that aren't taking that approach, because there's going to be some disgruntled workers, very strong workers, who are just looking for something that's slightly different. So from a leadership perspective, there's a lot to grapple with there, right? Are you using it as a technique because you're looking at streamlining the workforce a bit? Are you using it because you feel it's the right thing to do and you do want to see the cities be more vibrant? Are you not doing it and you're going to make a play for some of that talent that is out there that doesn't want to go back, and you're going to remain hybrid or potentially even virtual? It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the space as we roll through. I would say 2026 will be very interesting, as that's when a lot of these mandates kick in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I mean, on the institutional side and on the land deal at multifamily, I mean, we're just seeing it's a chasm there right now. There's no new construction. Nothing's getting built. It's slow right now. I was on a panel recently, and a large developer was saying there, and he's saying, we're new homes, new condos, and we're projecting maybe 2028. So that's a long time.
It's a long time. It's an interesting problem that's building in the darkness, essentially, right? Right now, you can't argue that there isn't enough supply. There's certainly supply available. May not be at the price that people can afford. And I think that that's a part of the conversation that often gets sidelined. Like, oh, look at the supply. The supply is there. What's the problem? The problem is the cost of that supply isn't going to meet the needs of many people who aren't going to qualify to buy something that costs what it costs right now. So, but putting that issue aside and just saying, okay, we're supplied right now, so therefore we're not going to be building. It doesn't make economic sense to build until 2028. Where are we going to be at when that build starts, given how long it takes to get something actually built in a province like Ontario? Are we looking at not seeing things, new construction built till 2033? That would mean? And are we then going to be so drastically undersupplied that we're recreating the same problem we just lived through?
That's exactly it, right? The pipeline, if it's not there and you're not filling up and you're worried about what that looks like, well, you're going to be behind the 8 ball at some point.
Exactly. Well, the cities are still growing, maybe now at a lesser extent than they were growing during the real immigration boom that Canada saw, but they are still growing. And people are still going to choose places like Toronto, Vancouver as the place they want to be if they can afford to be there. So the demand will eventually be there. It's just what is going to be there to meet that demand. And even if it does come back in 28 as an example, will as many people want to put shovels in the ground, or will people be a bit more gun shy based on what they just went through? Some of that will come down to when investors come back, I think. And if that group remains a bit shy when it comes to real estate, you may see end users have some sufficiency in the market, not have to compete quite as hard. We'd recall that a lot of the competition from the last few years in that space has been from the investor.
Yep.
That said, if there's not enough supply, it will start making sense for investors to invest in real estate again. That's what got us here in the first place.
Yeah. What were your thoughts when they brought in the foreign buyer ban?
Well, it's interesting because it depends who you ask. And we've always suggested, I know from a Royal LePage perspective, that there are not enough foreign buyers to impact the market as a whole. Like, that's not what's causing all those bidding wars. If you have 40 people bidding on a house back in COVID, 38 of them were not foreign buyers, right? So that wasn't the real main problem. I think it was a popular solution. I think people felt it was action, and we're always seeking things from the government that make us feel like they're taking action. It's hard. The government's it's a big organization that's very hard to maneuver. It's hard for them to have impact in housing, particularly, especially at a federal level. So that's a way for them to have impact. Now, is it having the impact? It remains to be seen, right? I don't think it has. From a personal perspective, there are probably some more anecdotal stories, particularly in markets like Vancouver, maybe a little bit in Toronto, where you can suggest that pulling that investor, if it was a foreign investor buyer, pulling that investor out of the condo market, for example, might make some more room for end buyers. But remember, we just said all investors have essentially pulled back to a certain extent from that market. So is it that because all investors have pulled back, or is it because foreign investors have pulled back? So again, it's still a muddled environment. There's not a clear cut. Foreign buyers were the problem. We've removed them. Now we have a solution. That's not it at all. That's not what we're seeing play out in the market.
But it did feel a little bit like a little bit of smoke and mirrors, oh, we're look what we're doing. We're doing this for you. But in reality, those were living it in the trenches day in, day out. Might have had a little bit of impact, but not as much as they were portraying.
Exactly. The biggest thing that would have impact is units available at a price point that particularly a first-time buyer could reasonably afford. That's a very hard nut to crack. I'm not suggesting that, let's snap our fingers and make that happen. But if you ask people, would you like to own a home? The vast majority of them will say yes. You ask them what is holding them back. It's going to be the deposit. It's going to be the monthly payment structure. And it's also going to be the fact that they're paying right now in a city like Toronto, even with some softness in the market, incredibly high rent, where they're not able to put away as much money as they need to. If there's any benefit to where the market is right now, this very slow, prices are more or less flat on a given month. They've gone down a bit, but single-digit percentages. It's giving people some time to catch up and save without prices continuing to increase and run away from them. Because that's what we were seeing in all of the years prior to the slowdown, was they just couldn't save fast enough to keep up with the housing price increases.
It felt helpless for a lot of people. I know that. And rents were just growing at an astronomical rate. I mean, to the point now, like you said, that they've leveled or softened a little bit. Great. Hopefully they can do something. The interest rates, any thoughts on what might happen over the next 12, 18 months?
Right now, it seems like it's a pretty much status quo situation. I mean, there is always going to be the factor of what's happening in the U.S., and that is going to have a major driving impact on what does happen up here. So if something dramatically changes, we will see changes to interest rates. Like, interest rates are a tool that the government will use to help if the economy is shrinking, if we're seeing ourselves in a position where job losses are all of a sudden very outsized, they're going to lower interest rates. So will interest rates lower? I don't know. I don't think there's a clear-cut answer on that. Often we're in a very definitive pattern where it's like, yes, we know it's going to go down. We're not there right now. We're kind of into anyone's guess, waiting to see what else might happen.
Waiting for the other shoe to drop, stuck in limbo a little bit right now.
Exactly. So I think we have to go on the assumption that these rates are the rates right now. And I think what everyone is watching, especially on the residential side, is pricing. Right? Is our prices going to go down a bit more? Because if they do, that's going to have the same impact as, say, a 25 basis point rate cut. Now, that said, will they? It's hard to tell. It does sort of seem like we're in a period of some flatness. Like, a lot of people are talking about the fact that this is the turning point. We have heard that a few times already. So I'm not sure if I'm totally convinced yet.
Or the new phrase, the new normal. That's what we hear a lot of these days.
Of that,
which isn't I don't discount how important that is. I mean, when we had Ted Davis on here, his main comment, we hear a lot about this, is, Ted, what do you wish for? He says, I wish to know what I'm playing with. What's the playing field?
Yeah, exactly.
Just tell me, just so we know, because uncertainty kills business. And right now we have no idea. We can't make any projections. We can't decide what we want to do. We don't know what we're playing with.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that is the thing that has hindered this recovery from this particular cycle the most. It's the uncertainty of what's happening next. And
and then throw in Trump 2.0 and the tariffs, and we thought we were coming over it, and then here's some more uncertainty.
Exactly right. It's uncertainty layered on top of uncertainty. So it's created a very challenging market, and housing is a different type of commodity, right? The consumer confidence is to a large extent driving some of the activity in the market. So if consumers aren't feeling incredibly confident about their jobs, because that's how they're going to make their monthly mortgage payments, if they're worried in general that the economy is going to go down, there's two sides to worry, right? There's worry because you personally might feel like you're not going to be in a position to afford that mortgage payment, so let's not do anything right now. And the other side of it is more of an opportunity lens, where people are saying, well, I can't afford it. I'm okay. I feel pretty good about my job. But if prices are going to go down because the market's still stagnant, I'll just wait for that to happen. So there's limbo on both sides for different reasons.
Yeah. So while we're stuck in a market that's kind of in limbo, prices have softened, interest rates moved a little bit. During all this going on, you decide to make a change. And now you've jumped over to Carson Dunlop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So exciting times.
Very.
Just tell everybody again your role and what you do there now.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of Carson Dunlop. So that is inspections of all sorts, residential, commercial, and also training of the inspector base in Canada. So we're the leading trainer in Canada for the inspection industry. And we're also a franchise network. So a network of franchisees in Canada trading under the Carson Dunlop banner, and then in the US trading under the National Property Inspections banner. So it's a busy place. We cover all aspects of the industry. It's almost the back-end service provider of the industry while actually providing the service. Very similar to Royal LePage to a certain extent.
Well, a phenomenal company, iconic company in Canada, obviously. I mean, I personally have known, I'm a big fan. I've known Richard Weldon forever, obviously, CDW. So on the commercial side, a lot of the industry players I've been with forever. I mean, Carson Dunlop Weldon is just like right off the tip of your tongue, both from an educational standpoint and also from practical standpoint. Selfishly for me, from the commercial standpoint, what can you tell us a little bit about what you guys have been working on, and can we anticipate any changes?
Yeah, really exciting time in commercial. So a couple things happening in the business right now. Exactly as you said, it is a firm that is steeped in incredible expertise and knowledge in their craft. They're so good at this work. So my job isn't to come in and try to make them better at their work. They're already excellent at their work. My job has been, let's sing your praises. Let's really make sure that the name is out there and that we are putting forward our story about how long we've been in this space and what type of clients trust us with their work and what type of work we do, right? We're running the gamut from the structural engineering straight through to the property assessments. We're looking at reserve fund studies, all sorts of things that are needed, not just when something has gone wrong, but when something could go wrong. You're planning, right? It's a huge partner to the industry in terms of planning for your asset. And that's really important. I think that the story and the history of the company, it's really important to get out there and share. One key piece of work that we've been really focused on in 2025 has been assisting particularly very large companies with decarbonization. So a hugely important topic, good business from an ESG perspective, also good business from a pocketbook perspective, because buildings that are reconfigured to save energy and to run on different systems, they're going to cost less to maintain and to run on a daily basis. So it's a win-win situation. And we've built up a lot of expertise in that area, and we've been heavily focused on that this year. And I think you'll see more of that to come.
Yeah, that's great. I did see a quote from you that was something, and correct me if I'm wrong, something in the nature of you're not here to rebuild, or you're not here to reinvent, or you're just to make some small tweaks, and that you're going to be focusing more on brand awareness from the consumer standpoint, from the industry standpoint. What do you have planned for next year in terms of, are you going to be doing more trade shows, more education, more, are you be working with universities, trying to get the younger crowd? Is AI on the table for you guys?
Yes, all of the
All the
above.
above?
So it's so important when you're coming into a company that's steeped in history, with excellent founders that understand the business. They've grown beautiful businesses. There's be no reason to touch that piece of the business, right? Let that stand proudly as it should. But where there is some opportunity and where I'm really excited is in getting out there and telling the story of the company, both the history and the vision. Introducing tools both internally and externally. We look at things like drones and cameras. That area alone, when it comes to inspection, it's huge, and it's not just huge because it's technology and it's cool, and people think it's neat to send a drone up to the top of the house, right, or the top of the low-rise building. It is actually a leveling of the playing field for the trade itself. Like, so many people, like real estate, come into inspection as a second or third career, often as a tradesperson. We want to be able to open this up and say, are you looking at trades at a younger age? Are you coming out of high school or college and saying, I don't want a desk job, or I think desk jobs might dissolve because AI is going to take the desk job I thought I wanted. So what can I do? We want this to be considered its own trade, and it really is its own trade. And with some of these tools, some of the limiting factors that might have dissuaded people from trades, fear of heights, right? Getting up on a big ladder and getting up on a roof. Some of the tools are actually making it so that, one, you can enter this trade and not be as worried about some of the physical issues that come with the trade, and also allow you to participate in it for longer, less wear and tear on the body because of the tools. And how many people do we have in our lives that were excellent tradespeople, but they just can't do it anymore because their body has just incurred so much wear and tear? So from both sides of the spectrum, whether entering in as a second career or coming in as a younger person out of school, these tech tools are going to have a big impact on why this type of area might make sense for you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I could see that, especially from the trade side.
Yeah.
Are you guys already using AI? Is it part of your daily life right now?
It is part of our daily life, like I think it is for so many businesses. What it's not doing is replacing the work of the inspector.
Right.
There are more tools that will come down the pipeline that will allow the inspector to do their job more efficiently when it comes to report writing, and for the consumer to receive information in a way that's easier. Inspection reports are very detailed, as if you've ever seen one, it is a great opportunity with technology to make that material more consumable. So we're taking a good look at that. And then also because the inspector who is out there in field and, working with maybe a buyer, walking them through the home, or with the realtor doing a pre-listing inspection, right?
Yep.
Or in the commercial building, and they only have a certain amount of time. There's more structure around that type of inspection. They've got to go back, and then they have to write that report. So making that easier for them so they can get back out there and do another job, or just not have to work longer than they need to.
Yeah.
That's really important to us too.
It's the same thing we talk about on the real estate side, not replacing the agent, not making the agent obsolete, but improving their ROI, improving their skills, improving the quickness that they can turn things around on, improving the skills of the inspectors. So it's going to facilitate a better inspection, a faster inspection, higher level of quality. So you're looking at it to be a partner.
Exactly. And there's a real opportunity, particularly on that training and mentorship topic, which is so important in this space as well. If you can virtualize and bring to life some of the material and the learnings, that's going to be very impactful, because that's going to feel more like real practice as opposed to theoretical study. And that makes a big difference when you're newer in the industry. So that's a really exciting aspect of the business that we're exploring as well.
Do you think the consumers know enough about either the relevance or the importance, or just what's involved in the inspections process, whether it be on the residential side or the commercial side?
I think right now it has a reputation of being almost a necessary evil, right? Like, it's a necessary thing because I need to do this to know if I'm confident in buying this house. On the commercial side, I think less so, because I think that due diligence is just more ingrained in the process. often you're talking about a higher dollar value, more complex property. It's just more of
different capex and exposure.
It's a given that you're going to likely have to do more than just an inspection. There's a lot of process that goes into a due diligence on a commercial file. But residentially, it's a bit of a gate in which you have to pass through. We're trying to empower the consumer at the end of the day. Even if you buy the house, which is really likely, it's quite unlikely that you don't end up buying a house after an inspection. And if it's in rough shape as that, it's probably a good idea you didn't buy the house, right? So there's kind of a no-lose situation to that. But understanding the house you purchased, the systems, how to take care of something, right? I need to take the leaves out of this gutter. Okay, I didn't maybe realize that, right? People are different than they were, right? This isn't taught in school. We weren't taught this in school, right? Our kids are certainly not taught this in school either. So giving a consumer a leg up on how to maintain the biggest asset they're ever going to own, that's really where the value of the inspection is. And it's why we are obsessed with how do we take this information and how do we make it more usable for the consumer, and not just at the point of purchase, but down the road. How do we link it back, right? Oh, you told me I need these filters in this furnace, they need to be swapped out, but maybe they need to do that more often. Like we know they do, right?
Yeah.
So is there an opportunity for us to remind them of that, right? Through technology, through tools, and say, reminder that your roof now is coming to near end of life, and that you might want to go get some quotes and start thinking about that, right? So it's not as much a one and done product. Still,
I think the role has changed. So it's not so much one and done, checking off some check boxes, and the role of the inspector and the relationship and the lifespan of it has changed a little bit, where it can be a little bit more conversational, a relationship that you build up that maybe you'll come back to this person or they'll be there post-transaction.
That's absolutely what we like to see, right? Certainly at the time of the inspection, that we pride ourselves on that level of service. That is exactly what Carson Dunlop does. They are an impartial guide through the part of the house you probably don't know that much about, and they're going to tell you what the state is of the home. And that's really important, especially at that buy time decision. And it's really important when you list too, because you don't want to get caught in a surprise situation down the road when you're negotiating an offer and all of a sudden deals are derailing because you didn't know something that an inspection could have uncovered. But for the go forward, remaining a trusted, impartial advisor, someone that knows lots about your home and can continue to help advise you about that home, that's definitely the end state, the goal that we're working towards.
Well, that's exciting. That's awesome. It's an exciting time, new times. Obviously, technology is changing things. The relationship, I think, is really changing. I think real estate, inspection, these environments are ripe for change. I think you'll be right there doing a great job. I like what you're talking about in terms of brand awareness, making people more. It's always seemed a little bit like getting a mortgage. Oh, it's a necessary evil. I have to do that. It's behind the scenes. Let me just get this over and done with, as opposed to, no, this is something that you need to know about and it's important to you going forward.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So a bit of a mind shift there, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's the biggest asset that people are going to ever invest in. And people love their homes. Like if we learned anything out of COVID, I think it's, we've reignited the love we have for our homes. So you take care of your home, right? Know about your home, understand more about your home, right? That's a goal that we should have as homeowners.
Well, listen, we're wrapping up here. Two questions I always ask, and this is, we've been doing this for a while. So one, and this started with Ray Wong and his joke ongoing. Santa comes along and drops off $5 million in your lap. And as Ray said, I've never had Santa drop $5 million off of my lap, but let's just say Santa.
Okay, all right.
The market, the industry, the verticals. Obviously, if you want to look at this from the lens of inspection, $5 million, where do you see it being put these days, which would be beneficial going forward? What market do you like? Residential?
That's a good question. I think I'd span both. I would be in technology. That's to me the game changer, particularly in this space, in the inspection space. There's so many interesting things that can be done with the tech. And I think that it's like everything in real estate, especially residential real estate, it's consumer driven, right? Commercial is going to be driven by the client. Same idea. The end user is the one driving the bus in terms of their demands, of how they want to be serviced, their expectations. So we need to meet that where it's at. And I think that can absolutely be done with some further assistance from technology to help differentiate. A good customer service will never be replaced from a one-to-one perspective, but there's so much more that goes into servicing clients that is not just that piece and not just that moment in time. So I'm investing in tech.
In tech, okay. Well, that's from you still got a little bit of that startup itch in you, right? You still leaning back to that.
Yeah.
You're leaning. And then tell us a little bit about yourself on a personal level as a wrap up here. What hobbies? What keeps Karen excited day to day?
Being outside, being with family. I love being able to disconnect a little bit, which is so hard in this day and age. So being able to get outside, especially given that we live in Canada, and sometimes I question that when we roll into January and February. So
2 seasons in Canada, right? But there's construction in winter.
Yeah. So for me, it's very simple, right? I really am a creature of simple pleasures. They make me the most happy. I love travel like everyone else does. I love the big things in life that punctuate your life that, get you really excited. But if you ask me honestly, I am someone that just lives for the simple pleasures. Give me a sunrise, give me a walk on the beach, give me some time in nature, give me some cuddles with the dog.
Wow. This sounds like a Tinder profile or something like that. This is awesome. I love it. Well, I'm so excited for you. You're killing it already where you are. No doubt. Obviously, I'm very partial to what you were able to accomplish here at LePage. We were huge fans of you. It was a big loss for us when we lost you, but really exciting for you to be making this move over there. And they're very happy. I'm very happy that they were the winners of you. So congratulations. Thank you again. And please come back anytime and let us know what you're working on.
Wonderful. Would love to. Thank you for having me. Thanks for everything you're doing for the space.
Yeah.
And this has been wonderful. It's like coming home.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Again, as always, like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back again soon.